Hey, welcome back to Walter's Wisdom and More. Thanks for dropping by. Today, we're going to have a look at how I resoled my Birkenstock sandals at home. Birkenstocks have a EVA outsole, and it's not that durable. These are great shoes. I love them. I'd recommend them to anybody. There's nothing better for your feet. But the outsole doesn't wear that well. EVA is a plastic, and it's a very soft plastic, kind of like a foam, but it doesn't have the durability of natural rubber. However, it is a lot more lightweight, and I think that's why Birkenstock chooses to use that on their sandals. Anyway, these can be resold. That's the good news. And if you take them into a cobbler who will work on Birkenstocks, they'll typically offer three different methods of resoling them. The first one is they can cut the worn heel off and just put on a new heel tap, or they can take this whole sole off, the whole 10 millimeter EVA sole, either by grinding it off with a sander or prying it off, and they'll put a whole new sole on. Or they can remove the leather straps and put those on a whole new cork footbed with a new outsole. And I've had all three of those done and been happy with them. But unfortunately for me, or maybe fortunate, my cobbler's no longer doing Birkenstocks. He's not working on them anymore. And so that's why I decided to tackle the resole on my own. And in the process, I've come up with a fourth method. And I think you're going to find out as you watch this that it's very simple. And it's a lot more cost effective than taking your sandals into someone else and having them done. Plus, it's a fun project. So let's get into it. Step one is to build up those worn down heels. All right, so my go-to for building up the heels was shoe goo. Over several days, I just added a little layer and kept piling it up until it had leveled up with the original surface. And to make sure it didn't spill over the edges, I just put a piece of tape around the cork and built a little dam for it to go into. Step two then was to find some replacement soles. So I logged on to Amazon and noticed these ones here, and they come in a few different colors. So I ended up selecting these ones here. They're 4 millimeters thick. That's what they look like here. And they're made out of rubber, like I mentioned, and they cost $9.98. So a little thinner than the original sole, but that's fine, as we'll see in a minute. Next, I took a sanding block and I sanded the bottom of the sandal, leveling off all the shoe goo here and just making sure all of this was roughed up and clean. It's also a good idea to wash the sole first before you do any of this stuff, before you put the shoe goo in or before you do the sanding. So get that all prepped. What you're doing is you're prepping that up for the next phase, which is gluing. Okay, step 4, you're going to put glue, contact cement, all over the bottom of this sanded down sole. Likewise, you're going to paint contact cement onto the replacement soles. Make sure to paint that onto the non-grip side. And also make sure you wash and sand the side that you're going to be putting contact cement on of those replacement soles, just to make sure there's no contaminants from the factory on those. So the sanded down sole is no longer 10 millimeters thick because you've been wearing it and we've sanded it. So we're going to add 4 millimeters to that. If we've worn 4 millimeters off of this, then we'll end up back at 10 millimeters. Or if we've worn a little less than 4 millimeters, or even a little more, it doesn't matter. We're just going to add that 4 millimeter new sole right on top of this one. Okay, when I put the contact cement on the bottom of these sanded soles, I noticed that it absorbed into the EVA quite a bit. So I let it sit for about 10 minutes and then I put a second coat on it. Once you have allowed the contact cement on your EVA sole and on your new sole to dry, that takes at least 20 minutes, and you can let them dry for up to 2 hours. Then what you're going to do is just take that dry contact cement surface, pretend this is the new sole, and it's coated with contact cement that's dry. And you're just going to take the two and very carefully put them together, stick them together. You only get one shot at this. Stick it down really good. Put pressure all the way around. Once that sole, you've stuck that on by hand, the next thing you want to do is get yourself a rag or something, fill it in to the bottom of your Birkenstock. Have this on a table, okay? Pretend my hand here is a table. Then get your hammer, because you want to really get good pressure on this glue. That's what makes it stick. And just hammer that sole. Hammer it around the edges. If you got some pliers and you can pinch around the edges, that's good too, but you don't want to damage the cork on your Birkenstocks. I just pinched it really good with my fingers, and I hammered up as close to the edge and right on the edge. Just hammer that whole bottom. And the last step is to take your utility knife and go around the edge here. Trim that new sole down to the exact same size as your Birkenstock sole. Just cut that all the way around there. And you're done. You don't even really have to let these dry any further because they were already dry before you stuck them together. And that's a permanent bond, the contact cement. But I think they're still off-gassing for up to 24 hours. So I didn't use mine immediately. I let them sit for a few hours before I used them. But anyways, here's the finished product. I'm pretty proud of it. You can see here where I built up the heels with shoe goo. And because you have this protective layer over it, that shoe goo is not going to get ripped off. I did the same thing on my wife's. I haven't stuck the replacement soles on. I want to actually do an experiment and just do hers with shoe goo because she wasn't as worn down up here as I was. So we're just going to see if that will hold up without that protective layer over top of it. So far, so good. These have actually been worn, and that's not coming off. That's pretty much permanent. So anyways, yeah, that's how you resole your Birkenstocks. One other thing you can do is sand these edges after you've cut it. If you didn't get it just perfect. And if you still have some of this dog bone pattern on your shoe, you are going to have a little bit of spaces here where dirt could get in. So I just took a little bit of contact cement and just filled in a few of those spots. Okay, it's now a few weeks later after the resole, and I was cruising around on the Birkenstock website, and I came across something I didn't know they had. They have this thing called the Arizona Grip, which is a grip sole. Let's read the description for the sole here. Outsole, two-component sole. The two-component sole combines the lightness and flexibility of EVA with the elasticity and scuff resistance of rubber. So let's have a look at that. See, look at this sole here. It's a two-part sole. You've got your EVA here, and then you've got a piece of rubber glued to that. Birkenstock is selling the sole that I essentially made for mine. So anyways, that's pretty cool. Here's what they look like. So I am ordering a pair of these. It's going to be interesting for me to see if these wear better than my homemade jobs. I think my homemade ones are thicker. This doesn't look like it's 4 millimeters here. So probably the homemade ones are going to last longer. But I also want to see how much heavier my homemade ones are than these grip ones. Okay, here we've got 3 pairs of Birkenstocks in size 41 and a scale to weigh them. The ones that are green up in the top left, those are the grip soles that I told you I was going to order. The ones on the bottom right are the ones that I resoled myself, and the ones at the top right
are suede ones that are just the regular EVA soles. So let's weigh those and see how they all differ in weight. Let's start with the regular EVA suede ones. All right, those came in at 267 grams. So we're always doing the left shoe. Now, these are the ones that I resoled myself. Okay, those are quite a bit heavier, coming in at 384. And finally, the grip soles, which is a 2-component sole as well, but from the factory 2-component. And that comes in at 315. Let's run them through one more time. Let's do the right ones. Here's the right one. Control, basically. 269er. Homemade 2-component sole, 381. And factory 2-component sole, 320.
I just want you to know I'm a huge fan of Birkenstocks. I've been wearing them for more than 30 years. And I gotta say, there really is nothing better for your feet. If you struggle with plantar fasciitis, please try wearing Birkenstocks. I think you'll find they'll make a big difference. Now, if you've never bought Birkenstocks before, then what you want to look for is the classic cork footbed. Recently, under new ownership, Birkenstock has introduced a gimmicky soft footbed. Stay clear of that one. Look for the traditional cork footbed. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and have a great day.